So, with college football back, Mel Kiper's released his top 25 prospects heading into the season, and here's the top 10. Houston defensive tackle Ed Oliver and Ohio State defensive end Nick Bosa are at the top of the list. The first quarterback on the board is Justin Herbert from Oregon. He's all the way down, though, at number 15. So to break it all down, we welcome Mel into the show. All right, Mel, everybody's talking about it. It's a defensive line draft. Defensive linemen's all over the top 10. Let's go with your big guy, the one at number one, Ed Oliver. He's playing at a, non-Power 5 school. So is he a can't-miss guy, Mel?
Yeah, he's looked like it, Will Roy, since day one. As a freshman, he looked like he was NFL ready. And you see what Aaron Donald's been able to do in the NFL, and collapsing that pocket from the interior is so important. I think Ed Oliver, think about Nick Bosa, Rashan, Gary, Michigan. They're all in the mix to be the number one pick if you want a defensive player. If you want an offensive player, the quarterbacks we know are going to ascend. They're right there where they are at 15 and 22. 15, Justin Herbert, 22, Drew Lock. And if they come out throwing a football like they're capable, and Herbert had the injury last year, came back from it. They were 6-2 with him, 1-4 without him. Drew Lock can throw it all over the yard, but he has to get that completion percentage up from 57.8 to maybe 63.5. If he does, he moves way up. You're talking about two quarterbacks have the talent, guys, to be in the top 5 and be in the discussion to be the number one pick overall if they have a great year.
So, Mel, 8 out of your top 10 prospects are on the defensive side of the ball. We all expected that, but is that a statement about the strength of defense this year in college football, or is it a statement about the weakness in offense?
Well, I think 7 of 10 last year, the first 10 players picked were offense. So we had the quarterbacks go early. We knew that. I think you look at this year, the fact that Clemson saw guys go back for another year that could have come out. We saw that really across the board with some of these guys opting to go back. Now, Ed Oliver couldn't. He's a true junior. Something about Nick Bosa, the same thing. But some of these other guys opted to go back. Clellan Farrell at Clemson, could have come out and been a high pick. Some of these other guys could have as well. And I didn't even, guys, factor in when 11 defensive linemen in the top 25, Brian Burns is an attacking pass rusher off the edge from Florida State. He's got his weight up now. Defensive end combo outside linebacker, we'll see. But if you put him as a defensive end and don't put him as an outside linebacker like I did, you got a dozen defensive linemen in the top 25.
Mel, I remember a year ago talking to you, talking to your buddy McShay. It was really almost like you guys had a crystal ball. I'm talking about on quarterbacks, okay? You were talking about Rosen, you were talking about Darnold, you were talking about Allen, and it unfolded just that way. The one guy that jumped up from everybody is Baker Mayfield, but the truth is, I think you were talking about Baker pretty early on, if I remember correctly. So take these guys you're talking about now, and there's like a dozen of these quarterbacks, right? Locke, Greer, Herbert, Stidham. You can just keep going and going. But they all seem a notch down to me. Compare this year's class to the guys last year were going to be big top 10 quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I cautioned in August, when I came on the show in August before the season began, I said all three of the big-time elite quarterbacks had tough circumstances to deal with. Key losses around them were going to make it tough. You think about Josh Allen going without his center, his top running back, wide receiver, and tight end, going into Iowa City to play the Hawkeyes led by Josie DeJoy. You knew that was a recipe for disaster. All those quarterbacks it wasn't setting up ideally for. This year, I think you look at Drew Lock at Missouri. Yes, he loses Jamon Moore and Witter, the running back, but he's got talent coming back, particularly on the offensive line. So does Herbert. Even though he loses Royce Freeman and Tyrell Crosby, there's talent out there in Eugene for Herbert to have a real good year. So I think you look at Will Greer. Will Greer kind of reminds me a little of Baker Mayfield. Ryan Finley, NC State, a little Joe Flacco. Herbert, a little Sam Bradford. Drew Lock, a little Josh Allen. So there's some comps out there you can use, but Jarrett Stidham at Auburn can't get lost in the shuffle here. He has a chance starting this Saturday against Washington, who has a really good defense, to have a solid year as well. And there are others. Tyree Jackson, guys, at Buffalo has as much physical talent as anybody. If he can become consistent, he's got a great senior receiver and Anthony Johnson to throw to. Anthony Johnson could be a first-round pick. We had Khalil Mack go early a few years ago. Now Anthony Johnson out of Buffalo could be a 1. But watch Tyree Jackson at Buffalo with the Bulls. He could have a big year as well.
So, Mel, who on your list do you think can have an immediate impact in the NFL?
Well, I think you look at the defensive linemen, they all should, because that Aaron Donald is going to be the comparison for Ed Oliver. Look what Aaron Donald's done since day one. Look at Joey Bosa, Nick's older brother. Look at Joey's on. Nick's going to be comparable to Joey. So I think you're going to look for impact from those guys right away. But I think certainly Bryce Love, the running back at Stanford, he averaged 8.1 a carry last year, guys. He only had 6 catches. for a guy like Bryce Love, I think a point of emphasis for David Shaw is going to be get the ball in the hands of Bryce Love, catching the football more out of the backfield. You have a kid, I think you look at overall, the running back class is really strong. I think that's a good group. You could see 2 or 3 running backs in round 1, led, of course, by Bryce Love.
Mel, one more. If you're looking at this quarterback class one more time, and let's take it from the other side of the equation, okay? It's a little early for your mocks, but take it from the NFL team side of the equation. Who do you suspect is going to be looking at these guys really closely? Who's going to be looking to draft a quarterback in the first round next year?
Well, I think you look at the teams at the top and who could be picking there. I'd say that Buffalo their offensive line's horrible. So they have Josh Allen. They got their franchise quarterback. They're going to look for an offensive lineman, obviously, to help Josh and some talent around him. And we'll see how that shakes down. 4 offensive tackles I have going pretty early. But you have to really wait and see. All these teams right now, have Baltimore with Joe Flacco, Lamar, has sitting there, Lamar Jackson, maybe to be the heir apparent. I think New Orleans, you think about with Drew Brees there, sitting there at his age, we thought they might go up and get Lamar Jackson. They opted for Marcus Davenport. They certainly could be in the mix. I want to see what the Saints do with Drew Brees. And obviously, Drew Brees and the Saints are my Super Bowl pick. New England against New Orleans, if that happens, would have a 40-year-old quarterback at that game for Drew and 41-year-old quarterback in Tom Brady. But I think New Orleans will be a team to watch. I thought they may have been going up to get Lamar Jackson. They went to get Marcus Davenport. We'll see what happens this year.